Trump official declared competent white men must be in charge. Yeah. Darren Beattie is, Trump's State Department is hiring his first-term speechwriter, a guy by the name of Darren Beattie, for a top job just 15 weeks. This is by Thom Christopher, by the way, over at Mediaite. Just 15 weeks after he submitted that, quote, competent white men must be in charge in a tweet. Semaphore broke the news that Marco Rubio is going to appoint him as Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy. Yeah. He was fired from the last Trump administration for speaking to a conference of white nationalists. Some weeks ago, apparently, he wrote, quote, competent white men must be in charge if you want things to work. Unfortunately, our entire national ideology is predicated on coddling the feelings of women and minorities and demoralizing competent white men. I'm telling you, these people know what they're doing. They are trying to make America white again. They're trying to bring America back to where only white men are in charge. And this is why a majority of white men and a majority of white women voted for Donald Trump in the last election. It's real simple. It's about race. It's about power. Darby Saxby, a professor of psychology at the University of Southern California, shared a leaked list of words. Now, this is the National Science Foundation. And I subscribe to Nature, and I'm a member of the AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And so I get these, emails, and the scientific community is just hysterical right now. And here's why. If you have submitted an application for funding for research that you're doing, and it has words in it like systemic or women, I'll give you the whole list. And this Darby Saxby, he writes, this is a crisis for science. These keywords could show up in the text of any grant involving human participants. If you're going to study men and women, you get flagged. If you say you're going to control for socioeconomic status, which is a totally standard practice, you get flagged. Disability, flagged. The word systemic is on the banned list. So if I study systemic inflammation and health, I get flagged. If I study political science, flagged. If I study trauma, flagged. And so here's this list, and I'm only going to share a little bit of it with you. Advocacy, barriers, biased, Black and Latinx, community diversity, cultural differences, culturally responsive, disabilities, disability, discrimination, diverse backgrounds, diversity, diversity and inclusion, diversity, equity, equality, equitable, ethnicity, female. If the word female is in your grant application, you don't get funded. Gender. If hate speech is in your application, you don't get funded because, of course, the Trump administration is just down with hate speech. Fine thing. Hispanic, implicit bias, inclusion, indigenous, inequality, LGBT, marginalized, minorities, multicultural, prejudice, race, ethnicity, racial diversity, racial inequality, racial justice, racism. If you're studying racism, your grant just got zeroed out. Sexual preferences, social justice, status, trauma, underserved, underrepresented, undervalued, victim, women. I mean, this is crazy. And they sent out this whole decision tree about, you look for these words. If you find these words, boom, you bounce them. Meanwhile, federal health workers are terrified after this website, it's called the DEI Watch List, is publishing the names and pictures and personal information of federal employees who are involved in the health field. People who go out and do vaccinations, or people who are, working for the VA or whatever. I mean, it's just, and interestingly, they call it the DEI Watch List. Interestingly, almost all of the names and pictures on this website are of black people. Once again, it's the racism, stupid. Offenses include working on DEI initiatives, donating to Democrats, or using pronouns in their bios. A government worker said the website is being circulated among multiple private group chats of federal health workers across agencies, as well as through social media links. People are freaked out. They're terrified. The headline over these pictures of these mostly black people on this DEI watch list of the federal employees, the headline used to say targets. They changed that yesterday when it got publicized to say dossiers. A person who isn't on the list but works at a federal health agency called the website psychological warfare. The link, this person said, is being circulated in their private group of federal health workers, causing some to freak out, you think? A note at the bottom of the website says, a project of the American Accountability Foundation. This is one of the so-called conservative watchdog groups. This article over at NBC News notes, quote, it's not the first time the group has created such a list. In December, it sent Pete Hegseth, then the nominee for Defense Secretary, a list of names and people in the military whom it deemed too focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, the New York Post reported at the time. Meanwhile, the CIA has sent a buyout offer to its entire workforce. Work for the CIA? Hey, how'd you like to quit your job? Russia would love it. Vladimir Putin would be so happy if good people in the CIA resigned their jobs. I mean, he's got to be thrilled with everything that Musk is doing and that Trump is doing right now. You know, putting a target on our backs around Gaza, taking lifting the burden from Netanyahu's shoulders. That's hurting America. Putin and Xi, President Xi of China, they have to be just giggling at all the ways that Donald Trump is destroying America. The new CIA director, John Ratcliffe, decided he also wants the CIA to be involved in this whole thing that Musk is doing. And over at Lever News today, I believe it's Lever News, it might be Judd Legum's website. What's Judd's website? There's a whole breakdown of the offer, this 8-month offer, and apparently what it says, while people think that, and in fact the email said you can take a vacation for the next 8 months and still get paid, the actual fine print of the article or of the offer says, no, you have to work until the very last day.